Farmer Health podcast. Um, we originally had someone scheduled. Oh, he's just coming in. So we'll go through the introduction. So my name is Jimmy Yen, the Acu Sensei. And so Chris is taking some time off to meet with family. And yeah, so I'm gonna be doing this solo. Um, Kai, welcome to our podcast. We are live, and so we're just gonna dive right in. I want to introduce Kai. Him and I, we just met last week, and yeah, and he's doing something pretty unique and for traditional Chinese medicine. And so I wanted to bring him on and share with our audience what he's doing and how it's unique. And yeah, tell his story also, because surprisingly, he's not a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, but he's in the business. So we're gonna dive in and ask some questions. But before I continue, Kai, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Hi, everyone. So yes, I'm Kai. I'm the co-founder of Reprise Health. And Reprise Health is a startup that's looking to make traditional Chinese medicine more accessible. And a big part of what we do, as Jimmy pointed out, is that I am not a practitioner by training, but I did grow up with traditional Chinese medicine just under the influence of my grandma. So the story is that both my co-founder and I, we both grew up very different parts of the world. I'm from Singapore, and my co-founder David is from Oakland, California. But we both have an Asian grandma that would feed us Chinese herbs for every cough that we have, right? Every issues that we had, and it has always been a struggle growing up because I think for me at least. The practice has always been a little bit inaccessible in terms of the knowledge in the space. There's just so much that you have to learn, and I have huge admiration for actual practitioners in the field. And the herbs are really bitter. So as a kid growing up taking these herbs, I thought this was something that I really struggled with, and then as adults. We just completely lost touch with this practice. David and I, were completely out of this practice. And so when we met in business school, that was when we came together and we started looking at, that was also during the pandemic. And we started looking at the different health habits that we have. And we realized, oh, wow, interestingly, we both have this Asian grandma. And now we're completely out of touch. So it started as a project really to really try to think through how this industry, how this space has developed. And we realized that a lot of the personal struggles we have, like the intimidation of going to a herb shop, the confusion of dealing with herbs, how bitter it is, all these things resonates pretty far and wide, even beyond ourselves. And yeah, that's where the journey really started. So we started interviewing experts. Jimmy, I wish I met you earlier, but we were interviewing experts in the field that includes a 5th-generation Taiwanese herb manufacturer that's very renowned in the space, right? Jimmy, you know them. They're called KPC Herbs. And really to understand, well, what are the herbs out there? What do we need to look out for, when we consume herbs? And really just to understand the herbal medicine world. In parallel, we were talking to Harvard Medical School professors, right? They are both Eastern and Western trained, and really understanding what their perspective of this space is. And I would say pretty conclusively, we realized, well, there's really something that we could do here, even though we're not practitioners. Maybe a fresh eye, coming in as a student of this space and working with real experts in the space to build this out. So that was how Reprise was born. We do two things, two forms of innovation. First is we put these really bitter herbs, we source the highest quality ones, actually co-developing them with KPC Herbs, the experts that we were interviewing with. and putting these herbal granules that you would find in the pills and capsules that are typically used by practitioners into our gummies. So the hope is that putting bitter herbs into a fruity gummy would improve accessibility in both like taste and also function. And then the second part of innovation is we work with the team of Harvard doctors to, think through, okay, it's rather inconvenient for some people to access herb shops or get recommendations. So can we digitize that? And we build an algorithm that can recommend you the right herbs, depending on what your health goals are, what your body constitution is. And so if you put both together, when you go to our website, you will see that as a consumer, you can take a very simple quiz. We can tell you, what your body constitution is, but more importantly, we can tell you, well, these are the herbal combination for you. And then you can consume them in the form of gummies.
Yeah, so I received the gummies that you sent me, so thank you for that. And I will say they are actually very delicious. I mean, I could eat the whole bottle if I don't control myself. But yeah, it's a unique form. So what made you think about putting it in a gummy form? Instead of any other types of forms.
First, it's really interesting that you say it's delicious, because we actually went through really multiple rounds of iteration for each herb, right? So for instance, in front of me, you can see this is the Panax ginseng, which is the renshen, right? Versus the reishi, lingzhi mushroom. And those are the two herbs that took the most number of iterations, because in its raw form, it's actually really, really bitter. And I'm sure you would be very familiar with that.
Yes.
So those two herbs alone took us quite a while to iterate. And even till today, if you taste it at the end, particularly for these two gummies, you might even taste an aftertaste of bitterness. Not overwhelmingly, but I think that gives a little nice touch to the authenticity of these herbs. And to your question, why did we pick gummy? Well, when we started, that was around 2019, 2020. And we were just thinking, well, there are a lot of herbs that are very unfamiliar in terms of the names to most Americans, right? Even till today, when I go out and I say, hey, have you ever tried ginseng? Some people will be like, oh yeah, I've tried ginger. And I said, no, ginseng and ginger, different things, right?
Yeah.
And same thing for other herbs like jujube seed. You might never have heard of them before. So when we came in, we were like, let's think of something which Americans are very familiar with. And we were looking at the trend and we realized, well, there are many, many forms. You could give it in extract powder, you could give it in pills, capsules, but gummy was the one form that were getting very, very popular in the vitamin category. So that was when we thought, okay, I think this form is very interesting. And fast forward to today, I would say that's pretty spot on. I think 2020 or 2021 was the year where for the first time, pills and capsules as a format together went below 50% versus all other formats. Right, because traditionally if you look at data before those years, pills and capsules would have been 80% of the mode mechanism for delivery, and now it's less than 50%. And most recently, when I was speaking to someone from Nutrition Business Journal in the Expo East, they told me that if you break it down even further, into specific factor like pill, capsule, powder, extract, and you see that gummies actually has become the most dominant mechanism now. So that's the long way of saying, well, I think first there is a level of familiarity among the Americans in having their vitamin or supplements in gummies form, and second is becoming more and more popular because of the convenience that it has.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. So,
Yeah.
do you know, like, you're talking about, powder, the granules. Is that going on an uptrend or a downtrend? Do you know?
I don't have the deeper dive into that specifics because
Yeah.
we were mainly talking about gummies. But
Okay.
I think
Okay.
I think Nutrition Business Journal will probably have a lot of data on that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, the herbs that you do have. So the
Mhm.
people, you know, this the audience for Divine Farmer Health is consumer based. And so
Mm.
let's talk about the herbs that Reprise carries and what are some of the functions. What are
Yeah.
some health benefits that they can get? So, because I know y'all have just a set number of herbs right now. So why don't
Mm.
we go through some of those?
Yeah. I guess we'll go through the 6 herbs that we
Yeah.
carry, right? The first one is goji berry, which is actually I have it right in front of me. Is goji, right?
Yeah.
Goji is a type of berry that is just very high in antioxidants. They're known for that. So in traditional culture, it's known as like the berry that keeps you young, right? High in antioxidants. So I would say that's one of the main functions that is typically consumed for. We also have the classic herb that is familiar with everyone today, which is turmeric, jianhuang, right? So turmeric, I think what it's best known for is anti-inflammation. So it's very good for your joint health, skin
Mhm.
health. We also have jujube seed, 酸枣仁, right? Which is very interesting because that is the herb that I really like because it is really good for calming and
Mhm.
sleep regulation. I think that's what it's most known for. Traditionally, you brew the entire jujube date with the seed and make it into soup, right? So yeah, jujube seed for sleep. Anecdotally, I've heard a lot of good things on that particular herb. I was just talking to a customer yesterday. I wish I recorded it. I didn't, but she was telling me that for her, she was really amazed by how much jujube seed has helped her with, sleeping more without interruption. And for herself, she has tried, melatonin,
Mhm.
magnesium, and all different types of things that you will see in the market. But jujube sleep does it in such a natural way for her, and she wakes up refreshed, no melatonin hangover. So yeah, I guess I'm giving that herb a little bit of extra highlight because even on
Mhm.
Amazon, like jujube seed somehow has taken off for us even without much advertising. Um, and then the other 3 herbs I have. So American ginseng and Panax ginseng, right? So those two are different species of the ginseng. Panax is from our Korean Panax, or what you would call red ginseng. Is from ours is from China, from Changbai Mountain, where you can find one of the best Panax ginseng. And then American ginseng, which is from America. Both are really good for multiple stuff. I'm sure everyone knows ginseng is the king of herbs. So, it's good for immune health, it's good for your energy, it's good for cognitive function. Uh, and it's really funny because on Amazon, some people have even reviewed and said it's great for their sexual health or vitality.
Mhm.
That's not something we promote, but apparently that's what some people have experienced. And then we have the last herb. I kept it for the last because this is something that is also getting very popular. Is the reishi, which is the lingzhi, right? Reishi mushroom, really good for brain health, for immune health, for longevity, right? In Asia,
Mhm.
it's known as the mushroom of immortality. Um, it's I would say reishi especially is a growing trend because you can even see it now, reishi mushroom in like gummy, not just gummies, but also in like reishi latte, right? A substitute for the classic latte that you have. So yeah, those are the 6 herbs, and of course, in combinations, you can think of, kind of the permutation you can create with those herbs.
Yeah, Linksys actually, it's I think there's a company that mixes it with coffee. Like
Yes,
I think it's
like
forgot what it's
Rise,
called.
I think RYZE.
Not
I'm
sure.
not sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I've definitely seen a few of those.
yeah. So you're so for for people who are not familiar with Chinese herbs, obviously these
Yeah.
are all brand new, but some of the audience they've taken Chinese herbs before, or maybe in a combination of, because a lot of supplement companies, like right now, a lot of supplement companies, they realize the benefits of Chinese herbs, so they add Chinese herbs into their formula. So for
Mm,
example, you're talking about jujube seed, they'll create a melatonin product and they will
mm,
add jujube seed into that melatonin product,
mm.
and call it something like sleep aid or something like that. And
Yeah.
so there's, the Western supplements, they've embraced, because they see the power of Chinese medicine. Uh,
Yes.
how does your company, how does Reprise, I would say, combine these 6 herbs, deliver it to the customer, because it's a little different. Because I was
Mm.
researching it, it's a little different. So share with the audience how y'all, distribute that to the customer.
Yeah. So we have different um, approaches for different channels, I would say. And
Mhm.
sorry, so because what you just said triggered a lot of thoughts in my mind, right? I think one thing is we see ourselves really rooted in traditional Chinese medicine. So even in all our we have a sleep formula, for example, right? And it's clearly a non-melatonin sleep formula, because the herbs themselves are very powerful. And of course, it might take time. But the idea of herbal medicine has always been about balance, right? Your body goes off balance, it tries to bring it back into a balance so that you benefit from it from a holistic perspective over time. Versus something like a particular active ingredient, or even hormone like melatonin, right? Which the function is almost more acute, right? You take the melatonin, hopefully it knocks you out. You wake up, I don't know how well rested you feel, you got the sleep, right? So I have my own perspective on whether you should mix a hormone with a herb just to get the function, because the herb themselves have very good function. But to answer your question, yeah, so 2 mechanisms. So our website, that's precisely the goal, is that because education barrier is so high, what we try to do is simplify the process of you finding the right herbs. So you answer a few questions, and then you can find that herb book will recommend you 3 herb combination that would then help you to achieve your goal holistically. And of course, before you purchase the herbs, you will see on the recommendation page, you can read more about each of the herbs, what they do, what is some of the PubMed publications about them, so that you're actually educating yourselves before you consume.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I think a lot of you, especially your audience, are very curious, and that's why they're listening into this podcast. They want to learn more. So those are for the more curious audience. And there are some audience who are more, I would say, they have less time to consume that much information, right? So what we do also on Amazon, we also sell combination herbs that already tells you what herbs are in them and what the function is. Now, I want to note, right, that all herbs have multiple functions. I'm always being forced to say, well, reishi is good for this one thing, but the reality is they're good for a bunch of things. So that's one. So when we put these herbs together and put a function, it's really to help consumers who are busier and they just need a quick fix. Like, okay, I need stress relief. These are the herbs that's going to help you with that. And hopefully over time that seeing the benefits of the herbs like acupuncture, you feel it for the first time, then you have more curiosity. Wow, it's really working on me, and I want to find out more. And you go to our website and you learn more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I wanted you to share about is the way that y'all send out, you have different combinations, preset combinations for like the energy, for probably sleep or stress.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many different combinations. But going back to the point, you had some, you're talking about concerns about mixing supplements like melatonin with Chinese herbs, right? And so they are completely different. Supplements are like, I like to use the example, like, people know you need vitamin C for your immune system. You can go you can go eat some citrus or actually some other fruits. Lots of fruits have vitamin C. You can eat the whole
Yeah.
fruit, or you could go and buy a pill or even a gummy of vitamin C. But that is completely different. A gummy of vitamin C is completely different from eating an orange or eating a grapefruit, because the vitamin C itself in a gummy is only an extract. And even though the orange contains vitamin C, the vitamin C is not the same as an orange. And so the orange was made perfectly. It has not just vitamin C, it has all the chemicals, all the vitamins and nutrients within it, to help make it beneficial as a whole piece of food, so to speak. And herbs are exactly the same thing. They're just like food. It's not extracting a specific ingredient from the herb and putting it into a pill, which a lot of pharmaceutical companies are starting to do because they see the benefit of that.
You brought up a really, really great point, because that also touches on the herbal extraction process, which is why KPC is so renowned in the space, right?
Yeah.
The way that they do the extraction is the traditional method of extraction. What that means is that they actually boil, or they use full spectrum extract, where they boil the entire herb, right, in a traditional way to extract all the active ingredients in the herbs, not isolating for a specific ingredient. To put it into practice, it would be like in ginseng, most people know ginseng for the ginsenoside, right?
Yeah.
But of course, there are other active ingredients that are in ginseng, and they have a ratio, a natural balance of ratio in them.
Yeah.
And you would see that the way KPC does it is whatever active ingredients, whatever ratio they're in, the way they extract it would be in the natural ratio. And they create that herbal granules. And that's what's put into the pills, right? A lot of extracts that you might see in the market might be, hey, this one has 2000 mg of ginsenoside, but it's artificially added, right? Just one active ingredient, one active ingredient that's pumped up. That's very different from a full spectrum extraction.
Yeah, it would be like, so because we'll talk about this a little bit about the safety and the herbs and the fake herbs and so forth. But what Kai is saying is just like, imagine you get vitamin C, you get like a cake. You bake a cake and it makes it look like an orange, and then you inject vitamin C into that lookalike orange. That's in essence what supplements are when they're saying, hey, this is ginseng, but it's not, right? Because what makes it an orange is not just the vitamin C, it's all of the ingredients, all of the nutrients, all of the chemicals within the orange that makes the orange the orange. It's the same thing with ginseng. And so talk a little bit about, because ginseng is so popular. It is very popular. Everybody is selling ginseng on Amazon, wherever, right? And a lot of the quality are not good quality. So talk a little bit about how, like what KPC does to make sure that they get the best quality of ginseng.
Yeah, definitely. And before I even touch on that, I think you can search it up. In the recent years, there's even a New York AG report, right, where they say, I think it's I can't remember the exact stats. It might be 1 out of 5, or even 4 out of 5, something crazy in the
Yeah.
of the supplements in the aisle don't contain the active ingredient it claims to contain.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just search up New York AG herbal supplement or just New York AG report on supplement, and you will find something really pretty wild stats that they found. And I'm not talking about these random herbs on Amazon. Maybe there's like a long tail of brands, right? I'm talking about
Yeah.
brands that you see on Walmart, CVS, major
Yeah.
retailers. So yeah, search up that report. I think that would be very interesting to tell you how important it is to examine the quality of the herb. So
Yeah.
KPC is very interesting. We work directly with the siblings. They are incredible as a family, running this family business for so many years, right? They've been around since 1892, so over 100 years of doing this. The quality of herbs starts all the way from sourcing, right?
Yeah.
So you will see that different herbs like reishi is sourced from the mountain valleys of Anhui province, right? Ginseng, I said, is in Changbai Mountain. We have goji from the Yellow River of Ningxia province. So there are specific geographies of places where they source really high quality herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the sourcing process, they would also do a lot of quality checks, right? Actually, not just sourcing. Like there are quality checks all throughout the process, from sourcing to extraction to all the way making out gummies. And the sourcing side, I think most practitioners would already know that there's a lot of rejection of herbs if they don't pass even visual inspection, right? So there's like visual physical inspection. There is chemical, DNA fingerprinting. There is I think it's called heavy metal analysis. So a bunch of quality checks that has to pass before they accept that herb. And I'm completely butchering this because it's been a while since I read the entire process or talked about that. But I would say, yeah, quality checks that includes both chemical, physical, checks that have been done is very, very stringent. And then some stats that I can remember off my head, for instance, like jujube seed is so expensive as an herb. I think it was surprising when I brought out that jujube seed. There were times when up to 70% of the herbs that they source could be rejected. So you can imagine the level of quality control that is required on that side. Yeah. And then when it comes to the extraction process, it's also a very precise endeavor, right? There is considerations around the pressure, the temperature, the time to extract, so that you are getting the most out of each of these herbs.
Yeah. So one thing that I'll add, that one thing that I tell, like in my clinic, my team will tell our patients, the way you pick supplements, right, is because every supplement company is going to say their supplements are tested, the best quality, blah, 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 right? How, as a consumer, how do you actually really know? And so and when I was doing a lot of research on supplements before I started choosing the companies I buy supplements from, there's two criteria, but the main criteria that I look for is that are their supplements third-party tested. And so third-party testing is basically the supplement company will send out their supplements to third-party companies who have no financial benefit, and they will just randomly test batches and verify that whatever is written on the bottle is actually in the capsule, the herb, the gummy, or whatever, right? So that's one thing. And like you were saying about KPC, so I've used KPC before. And KPC is one of those companies that is third-party tested. And so that's one of the reasons why we used to carry them in our practice. So that's one thing, just because ginseng, reishi are so popular right now and they're all over being sold by all these supplement companies, a lot of them, like Kai was saying, if you actually had those supplements tested by a third-party company, they probably won't have the active ingredients. Now, they won't do you any harm, but they won't help you based on what they're saying that they're doing, right?
Mhm.
And the second thing, I want to talk about is, combining herbs and stuff. I just thought about this as we were talking about this. So many supplement companies combine the Chinese herbs. So now I don't even know if their extraction process is the same as someone like KPC would extract it. So I actually
Mhm.
don't know how they extract it. So this would be for the consumers, a question I would ask, and I'm going to ask these companies is, they combine melatonin with jujube. Okay, well, how did you extract jujube and how did you put it into that little pill or that capsule? Because that absolutely matters. So
Mhm.
that I don't know. I have to say I don't know how they extract it. I don't know if you know.
I mean, I wish I have more insights there. One thing I do know is I think oftentimes like mental shortcut, consumer psychology, is a big part of sales, right? So
Mhm.
I think a lot of times you would see what I do know is that some of these numbers must be inflated. They're extremely high. Like,
Yeah.
I think you can say that, for example, in our reishi, let's say it contains 240 mg every serving, right? Two gummies. And we know that the ratio it is roughly what KPC tell us is, yeah, you can think of every five. So like to make 240 mg of the extract, they probably use 5 times the number of herbs, right? So it's
Yeah.
roughly maybe 5 times 240, right? So oh my gosh, my math, 1200, I
Over a
think.
thousand. Yeah.
Yeah.
1,200.
So 1200 mg of whole reishi is being used to create this extract. But sometimes, I guess, if you read the label and they say standardized extract, just ginsenoside, are they just extracting specifically that one active? I think that's an
Mm.
indication. If you see something that's too high, I would
Yeah.
say, yeah, maybe double check that.
Yeah. That's good because ginseng is very expensive.
Mhm.
Wild ginseng is very expensive. A lot of times now they use cultivated ginseng.
Yeah.
So if you find a ginseng product, so for consumers, knowing that, if you find a ginseng product, like Kai was saying, and it says it has 1 gram of ginseng, active ingredients in that supplement, and the supplement is like $20, that's probably fake because to get 1 gram of ginseng, like real ginseng, is going to be freaking expensive. So, that's one of the I would say one of the indications that you can look at. Um, yeah. So we do have a question I want to answer. Someone asked, so what herbs do you have for eye vision?
That's an interesting one. Oh, I don't know if I have a specific product for eye vision, at least not one that we actively have promoted, unfortunately. Um,
So based on the 6 herbs that you just told me,
mhm.
uh, you actually Reprise does have one that is specific for eyes, and it's the goji berry.
Mm,
So goji is very good for, actually, you can make a tea out of it. So
yes.
typically, what I would recommend people do is, when you go to those Cantonese restaurants and you eat some dim sum and they always have some tea. And a lot of times the tea they use is a flower tea, right? And that flower tea is called chrysanthemum. So one of the things that I would say for Lillian, who asked this question, you can get, like, Reprise has this goji berry, so you can get that chewable, but you can also get goji berries itself, and you add chrysanthemum, and you just drink it as a tea. Like you just get some, put it in a little pot, and just pour hot water throughout the day, and that will help increase your vision. Because those are the herbs that we would use in an acupuncture clinic. Those are there's many, there's so many different herbs, but those are two of the most common ones. Yeah. Awesome. Kai, anything else you would like to share? We are about to wrap up. So anything else you want to share?
No, I think for us, a big mission of Reprise is around authenticity and accessibility. So I think one thing that we are working very hard on, which you would start to see, is we actually partner with a lot of acupuncturist clinics who hold our product. So, hopefully with time, we would gradually build more and more of that channel, because in my mind, that's just something that we take a lot of pride in, right? That this is something that is of the highest quality and most stringent standards that apply to a gummy.
Yeah, awesome. So you also do have, I think you have a coupon for our listeners.
Yes.
Do
You're
you want
right.
to share about it?
Yeah. So most recently, as part of the Fall Fest, this weekend, David and I are actually doing an event, live sampling event in New York. So if you're in the area, Chinatown Fall Fest, free tickets, come by. We're doing free sampling, and we are also making some sales. And part of the proceeds would go to supporting Chinatown community. But more importantly, if you're not physically in New York, we have a 20% off discount now on Amazon as part of the Fall Festival. There's a direct link that I've provided to you, Jimmy. I'm not sure how we can show that.
My team's already posted it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as a founder, we rarely do sales, because I think we take a lot of pride in the product. But as part of this Fall Fest, and to get more people to try reishi mushrooms, we decided to run the 20% off. So there's a direct link, so feel free to go check it out. If you do buy them, please give us your comment or feedback. You can email me directly at support@reprisehealth.com. I always love to hear from our customers. And if it's a 5-star, definitely, submit that directly to Amazon, help us get more visibility.
So is Amazon the main place you want people to go to get Reprise Health?
Yeah, I think that would be the most convenient for people who,
Okay.
Who are looking to just grab a quick bag.
Okay. Awesome. And we already have, for everybody that's listening, we already have the link in the comments, and we also put it on the post. And so make sure you click on it. And yeah, if you have any questions, it was support@reprisehealth.com, right?
Yeah, or you can follow us on Instagram @Reprise Health. And when you send a direct message, you're going to get 50-50 chance of me or David just speaking directly with you. And yeah, awesome. So feel free to shoot us messages, tag us on Instagram. We appreciate all of that.
Awesome. Great. And so Kai, thank you for being on our podcast. And I just want to share again, he sent me some samples and they are delicious. I gave some to my wife and she's like, ooh, I want some of those because it's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a consistent feedback we hear from customers, and a big part of why we really take pride in the flavor and the taste.
Awesome, great. Well, thank you, Kai, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And those of y'all who are watching this later, we will be back same time, same channel next week, next Thursday with another podcast. We'll see you then.
See you. Thank you.